Welcome, everybody, to the fourth episode of Absolute Pro Wrestling After the Bell for the Bird, where we discuss everything about Absolute Pro Wrestling. And we got an exciting show tonight. And joining me, as always, is the man behind the scenes with APW, Jason Prentice, and one of the top commentators in the world, Badger Calhoun. Gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
Good, Clint. How you doing, man? And thank you for that endearment.
Of course, man. Of course. Mr. Prentice, how you been?
Too long of a day, too long of a week, and too long of a break in between shows. My goodness, we came off a red hot Winter Brawl Classic, and now we gotta wait a whole few more weeks. This will release when we got like 3 weeks left before Algona, a whole month before we go back to Des Moines. Like it's such a whirlwind right now. We're preparing for 3 shows within 1 month when we go into the month of
Got to stay busy. Got to stay busy. With that in mind, like you said, we're coming off of the Winter Brawl Classic. Jason, what is your feeling about the overall show? We'll get into a little more detail about the matches and everything here shortly. But as a whole, how do you feel the 2025 Winter Brawl Classic went overall?
I thought, minus some technical issues with the ring, I thought that the show went off without a hitch. I thought that it was quite a statement for what we do as entertainment, what we do as a brand. When you're like, hey, ring needs to get fixed up quick, and I addressed it a little bit on social media. Basically, what had happened was one of the poles underneath that we use to help stabilize the ring had come out during match 1.
Right.
And then you worry about, okay, well, we got to get this fixed, but you got match 2 coming out, and match 2 happens, and another one comes out. We ended up having 4 of these beams that had popped out of place, which I think there's a total of 8 or 9 of them total. So that's a big no-no. You don't want that to be the case. So thankfully, we had such an amazing crew of wrestlers who were like, hey, let's get this work done. We had 5 matches, which allowed us to get to an intermission at 2 and allowed us to really work on the ring. And we had to make the tough decision of stripping down the whole ring to get to the problem,
right,
to then fix the problem and get a good night of entertainment. And shout out to Austin Bayless. Austin was there, and he had just, strangely enough, had some ratchet straps because he was getting a crash pad for training stuff. And he, hey, I'll help take care of this issue, no problem.
Yep.
Him, along with guys like Justin Decent, James Jeffries, and many more. Again, Saints took care of that ring, and we got it back and running after intermission. And the rest of the night, everyone was safe and sound. Of course, as safe and sound as you can be when you have guys like Justin Decent and Baron running around. But I really did enjoy the whole night. As stressful as that whole situation was, and as stressful as working with 30 different talents can be, I thought that the night as a whole went off very well, and obviously a great turnout. When you got standing room only in some sections of that building, that's a huge testament to what we do, and it's one of the biggest draws that we've done in Waterloo, inside the Sportsplex. In history of us being in Waterloo. It's a top 5 draw, which is fantastic. We want to keep on that, and we want to keep that momentum going. I know some people were wondering, hey, is May 3rd the next show, or is it March 29th? Because we've gone back and forth. We're talking about Super Slam, but people got to remember, yes, you'll see it on the bottom of the screen here. March 29th is our next show in Waterloo. And we're really excited about that, which we'll talk more here shortly about.
Kudos to Bryce Jordan, AJ Smooth, James Jeffries, and Colin Anthony to navigate the waters of that ring being in the state it was at that time during that match. We definitely got through the hiccup and then had a great night. It was a night of new champions being crowned. With that in mind, Badger, what are your thoughts on new tag team champions being crowned in the free world?
I'm wondering what Big Picture thinks of this. Because wasn't he the one that was saying, we got to trim the fat? We got to make sure that everything goes wonderful. Nobody loses. We're coming back with a vengeance.
Right.
And then that plan completely turned on its head. I'm wondering what Matty Starr and the Untamed Lion, Leo Santel, think about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it was interesting because when I was going through the pictures, which the Winter Brawl Classic, the full albums will be up Friday from that match, but the tag title match, you could see at times in the pictures that Maddie and Big Picture are kind of giving each other side eyes during their promos and when they're coming out. Jason, I know we kind of talked about going into it. It was a must-win situation for them. What do you think of all this almost animosity or uncertainty between the free world currently?
It's something that's intriguing to watch at ringside. When you're calling the matches and you're seeing body language.
Mm-hmm.
Badger and I can attest to that. You're kind of, as it's happening, I'm kind of nudging Badger like, hey, man, this is what the hell is going on here? So I do agree with Badger. You have to wonder what the mindset is for not just the Big Picture, but for, for Maddie and Leo.
Mm-hmm.
They held up their end of the bargain. However, the story in all of this, the Big Picture lost his title, but how did he lose his title?
Mm-hmm.
You look at that, and
right?
Maddie costing him the championship. I don't know how Picture's going to sit with that. I don't know how Picture's going to react to that. But what we do know is that all three of those guys will be in the same room with one another before we even get back to Waterloo. They're all confirmed to be at our Des Moines show on March 8th. And of course, there's a big main event, which we'll talk about how we got to that point here for Des Moines. But I'm interested in seeing how they interact with each other behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in seeing how they interact with each other once they hit the ring. But I just, there's so much that happened at the Winter Brawl Classic, Clint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lot going on with that in mind too. Where do you think the 319, Ethan Everhart and Jay Wesley go from here after losing the titles? Do they focus on trying to win those back, or do they try and go out and test the single waters? It seems like Jay Wesley really wants to start dipping his toes in creating his own singles legacy. What do you think what happens next for the 319?
Well, to be honest, I got to think they could go either way with that one, because Ethan Everhart and Jay Wesley in their own right are two amazing upcoming superstars. Right. And you put them together, they make an amazing tag team. I mean, what can you say? They won the titles, and unfortunately they lost them, but they could always go back and get them back, and that would give testament to how great of a tag team they potentially can be. They can be great because they can take a loss and then they can come back and get it. Mm-hmm. Or if Jay Wesley or Ethan Everhart consider it, they could, potentially look at Alvin Falcone and say, hey, maybe we could go after him as well.
Speaking of Alvin Falcone, we talked about before the year began that 2025 could be the year of Alvin Falcone in APW, and him winning the championship. Man, you talk about a reaction and the crowd just accept him as the superstar that he is. Man, that was quite the moment. Jason, you and I talked a little bit, afterwards about the night and everything after the show. What were your thoughts on seeing Alvin Falcone winning that championship years after reaching out to you about being a part of APW?
I had goosebumps. Yeah. And you heard the crowd just explode. Like I got goosebumps talking about right now, and it's not going to hold my back.
Yeah, buddy.
Man. I could not believe the reaction from our fans. I mean, I can believe it because of who it is, but I heard anything like that from an APW show, from an APW fan base. And I think it's a testament to how hard Alvin has worked, how long he's been working to get to this point. He's had highs and lows just like anybody else in wrestling, but in Absolute Pro Wrestling, he came to us here a couple years ago. And he's like, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. I had a post on my Facebook page about it. And I went back and I looked at that message, and I told him when he came through the curtain, I said, you're the best find we ever got.
Mm-hmm.
The best pickups that we were fortunate to be made aware of. And I'm so proud of you. And, we were able to share that moment with each other. But what a moment it was to watch him win that championship and to feel the energy from the crowd. And Now we have a new open weight champion, but now as well, gentlemen, and I know we've all been aware of this for any champion that we know, but now the pressure's on as a champion. How do you
Mm-hmm.
keep it? How do you make it better than just, I won the belt? Now what? How do you make it special this whole run? And I think if anyone can make it special, if anyone can really showcase why they are a champion, it certainly is Alvin Falcone. You look at the work he's done over in Magnum, you look at the work he's doing here in Absolute Pro Wrestling, anywhere he's going, he's a champion with or without a title. It just so happens he's got the blue strap right now, and I can't wait to see what he does with it.
Well, and two of my favorite pictures that I've gotten so far this year were from after that match when he won it and he's on his knee celebrating. And then as he's walking back, I got a picture of him looking down at the picture or at the belt, and I made it in black and white. And I was like, okay, those are two that are keepers for the year. And it's already on my potential list of my top 25 matches of the year. It was just a great match all around, big picture. We all know how good he is, and seeing Alvin Falcone step up to that level, and going and excelling in the moment was just a really cool thing to see take place. And like you said, the crowd reaction just took it over the top. Badger, who do you think is going to be gunning for Alvin Falcone now that he has that championship?
If I had to be honest, I would hope that maybe we could see some more JT energy in the future, because they had a rivalry not too long ago, and I'd like to see another page from that book. When it comes to Alvin Falcone, I'm one of those fans that got out of my chair and cheered, because I've been a fan of Alvin Falcone. I've been a fan of his work ethic. He's a really nice guy, and I think he wholeheartedly deserves that belt.
I think Victor Payne is another guy he needs to keep his eye out on. Victor Payne.
Oh boy.
He's borderline obsessed with winning a championship in APW and just hasn't gotten back to it yet. And you can see that that's really affecting his mental state. So I can see Victor Payne definitely zeroing in on that. And then our usual co-host, Ricky Bronson, has made it very clear that the open weight championship is something he wants for sure. So got a shout out to Ricky, who couldn't make it tonight, but he's definitely going to be in the hunt for that title too. So
I'd love to see any of those guys.
Yeah, I think any of those would be great matchups for Alvin Falcone.
Absolutely.
Sure. He's going to be a good champion to watch develop over the year. The APW champion Aaron Von Baron was in action at the Winter Brawl Classic. Got a little out of control.
Oh boy.
Poor Joey Jojo had a rough night with those two guys. Jason, with that rivalry being as intense as it is, what were your thoughts seeing all that take place?
Thank God for insurance. That was the first thought.
Yeah.
To change. I was talking on their podcast before the show. I said, man, we got to make sure the insurance is up to date, because those guys, we know it's going to be a brawl. We expected that it was going to be what it was. Right. Unfortunately, we didn't have a winner. Got thrown out. Joey couldn't handle it. Chris Hansen couldn't handle it. Well, he wasn't even there. He wouldn't have been able to handle it anyway. But, all the referees that were on hand, they were not able to stop these guys until finally, Aaron gets out of the ring and they're able to separate them. But it's a situation where we realize something needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Something has to give. And that's why I can break some news here. Okay. That at the 11th hour event, March 29th in Waterloo at the Cedar Valley Sportsplex, it will be Aaron Von Baron against Justin Decent. We have announced that already, but there will be a special enforcer handpicked by Absolute Pro Wrestling to be involved and to make sure there's no chicanery, to make sure that this fight goes down the way it needs to go down. Who that will be, you're going to have to be at the show to find out. So, special enforcer.
Geez, what crazy animal did we find to get that job?
It's probably Clint Duff, called Pot Stern.
It's Clint?
Well,
there we go, buddy.
Sure.
I feel much better.
Okay. Getting those two to settle this is going to be something to see, because you can see the bad blood is there, and it's going to take a little extra to get that situation taken care of between them two. Badger, what were your thoughts seeing them go at it like they did?
I was borderline afraid. Like I was scared, and I was thinking to myself, I'm looking at Tom over here like, man, do we need security over here, man? Like, are we going to be okay? Are those referees going to be okay? Are the fans going to be okay? I knew there was a police officer in the house. I didn't know if he was going to be okay if he got in between those guys. So I think you're right, Jason. There's going to be another part to this, and whatever special forces, Navy SEAL, what have you, you've guys found to do this. I hope he's up to the task.
Then Jason, I got a question. I got to ask you something as well. After the show, obviously, Big Ace and you went up to try and talk to Aaron Von Barron about things that happened on that night. You and also Ace was talking with Justin Decent. There seems to be a lot of animosity in the locker room, just overall between everybody. Like, what are your thoughts on everybody and the tension that's just bubbling in the locker room right now?
I mean, you think about it. You had over 30 talents you had to deal with, right? That's a lot of ego, male testosterone. What's nice is things are going to get settled.
Yep.
You look at the landscape of Absolute Pro Wrestling. Yes, there's a lot of animosity, but we ain't just going to talk about it. We're going to be, if that's how it's going to be, we're going to make it where we can make sure things get settled in the ring once and for all. So I think while there is animosity, it's mostly coming from the free world and from Aaron Von Barron and from Justin Decent.
Right.
Hell, you could even say the Shank and Aaron Von Barron. You could say there's animosity coming from Jay Wesley. We saw him get fired up in the locker room after the last show. While there's a lot of animosity, things are coming to a head, and things will calm down. Things will die down a little bit.
Right.
We get through maybe as soon as Super Slam. I don't know, but I know that we are on the precipice of people settling the scores that they have.
The road to Super Slam is already on the way right now. Of course, main event was the Winter Brawl Classic, the 30-man battle Royal Rumble style. 30 great talents coming in for the match. Before we get into that, I just want to say that my prediction was right, and there was a confrontation between these two. So I nailed that prediction. Just throwing that out there. Besides that, Badger, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of Bryce Jordan's performance coming in with the injury at number one? Which, before you get into that, I do want to mention, I thought it was kind of interesting that Bryce didn't really shake your hand, Jason, in the most, nicest way on his way to the ring.
He didn't shake my hand, period. He didn't do it in a nice way.
True. He kind of brushed your hand away a little bit. So
he brushed it off.
Badger, what did you think of Bryce Jordan coming in at one with the injury and making it as long as he did down to the final three? What were your thoughts on his performance?
I was concerned. I was concerned for his safety because, as we all saw, he did not look good coming out of that fatal four-way with his leg being all banged up, and he had to come in at number one. So, and he lasted a lot longer than I would have imagined for a guy that with his kind of style. He's reliant on his speed, his agility, his high flying skills, and his power too. He can get big guys up there for that torture rack power bomb that he does. But my God, my hat's off to him. He is the golden god for a reason, and he lasted as long as he could. But unfortunately, he couldn't get to the end.
Yep. Well, and he recently was on Shotgun Wrestling Radio with our good friend Zach Takis and was talking about some of his favorites, and he mentioned Shawn Michaels, and you could easily say he was on a Heartbreak Kid type performance in the Winter Brawl Classic, going the distance that he did. Jason, have you started keeping track of like stats like the WWE does when it comes to the Winter Brawl Classic now that there's two under the belt?
A little bit. Don't up that right now, but yeah,
No, I'm just
we've done a little bit of like most eliminations, total eliminations. I think right now Victor Payne has the most overall eliminations, not just like in one rumble, but just in overall competition. Got the most. Longest in. Again, I have to check the stats on that.
Right.
You look at average finish, Matty Starr's doing pretty good. Matty Starr's doing really good. I guess, do you count him in the top 4? Or is it a tie between him and Jackson King? Things went down. Is that a good segue? Is that a good segue?
That's a very good segue. Speaking of that,
real quick, who's the shortest elimination? Was it Tom?
It was, well, Tom stood in there for a hot minute. But
okay.
Definitely Tom. Tom's got the shortest elimination.
Good. I can give him crap about that then.
The return of Jackson King. You talk about a all-time moment, man. When he walked through that curtain, that crowd, they erupted for him. It was one of those kind of goosebump moments, I would say. And then staring down the free world, eliminating Leo Santel, and then obviously eliminating himself and Matty Starr before leading into what happened after the show. Jason, I'll let you kind of handle that part. What were your thoughts on Jackson King returning that way and then everything that developed after that?
Well, I had seen some thread of potential people that were interested being in the Winter Brawl Classic. Typically what happens is we get a team of people that will look at entries into the Winter Brawl Classic, and they'll say, hey, what do you think about this person? What do you think about this person? And then as a committee, we work with it. We say, yes, absolutely. Some are just automatics.
Right.
They're going to be in there. Some of them, you got to be like, well, if it's this guy against this guy, you're probably going to go with this guy. Because we had a lot of people that were knocking on the door saying, hey, we want to be in the Winter Brawl Classic, just like last year. We turned some people down, and we had to create spots, and it's wild. But this year, Friday, literally happened the Friday going into the Winter Brawl Classic. We got a text, and then it led to a call, and I get told, hey, check out the thread. And I look at the thread, and it says Jackson King. And I'm like, what the hell? So I call some of the committee members. I'm like, all right, is this confirmed? Is this happening? Are we going with it? Because I have a feeling this is going to be chaotic. And I was happy that it was a chaotic moment, because it deserves a little bit of that. But what a moment, like you said. I mean, we had a lot of that. We had a lot of moments in the Classic, and this was one that I don't think anyone's going to ever forget. And I think especially the free world's never going to forget it too. Matty Starr tried to hug it out with Jackson. Jackson wasn't feeling it. Now we see these two afterwards. You saw the footage, which we'll play here.
Let's go, Jackson. You got him later, Jackson. You get him later.
Hey, you
got him later. Let's go.
Back tonight.
Let's go this way. You get him later.
Hey, March 8th.
Yeah, March 8th. I'm gonna his ass up.
Yeah.
And obviously, with that happening, it's all building to the big event, March 8th, West Des Moines at the Hall.
Right.
It's going to be Jackson King in his hometown against his former friend, now foe, Matty Starr. What a event that's in West Des Moines. It's confirmed. We have well over half our reserve tickets. I'm sure by the time this comes out, there'll be even more tickets sold. It's just such a main event that I can't wait to see. And again, Matty Starr and the rest of the free world, they kind of put themselves in this situation, guys.
Yep. And like we mentioned, I think the word of the night is animosity within APW, and there's no more animosity than those two right now. For me personally, having seen Jackson King from almost the beginning of his career, to seeing him get that kind of moment and that kind of reaction, that was really cool for me to be right there beside him taking pictures. it was just an awesome thing to see him get that kind of response. And then obviously now you're putting him in the main event again in Des Moines with Maddie. You just know with their talent, they're gonna kill it in what will be a fantastic match. So kudos to you for putting that together. Out of all that brouhaha between the two, so that's gonna be something to see.
Just made just made sense. You got to go with the flow, and that's something that Jackson had requested. He said, "Hey, that was the last time I heard from him.
Mm-hmm.
Friday before, all the stuff went down. I heard from him in early January that he wanted to face Maddie. We confirmed it on, all fronts, but up until the Friday before the Winter Brawl, I hadn't heard a thing from him. So the fact that we're able to produce this match in Des Moines, there's a lot of pressure on Maddie, I think, because obviously the hometown boy's got the home, he's got the crowd behind him. But I think there's a little more pressure on Jackson King than there is just because we know what Maddie's capable of doing. We know the chicanery he's all about, all the malarkey, which I'm sure my good Lucky P. Larson would love that word. But that Jackson King, he's young, he's very brash, he can be cocky, he can be confident, but he's got to be able to hone that down and not just be so angry going in, because he can make a mistake. And Maddie's been in the business long enough; he's going to capitalize on mistakes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Badger, when it comes to the Winter Brawl Classic, with some of the newer guys that were there within APW, who kind of stuck out in your mind with a solid performance with that maybe was making their debut or was returning to APW? Not one of the mainstays. We'll get into more of how they perform, but of the newer guys that showed up, who kind of stuck out to you?
I gotta say, I really liked Mason Grayskull going in. I had not seen him before, but he and I had some words before the show, and he told me he was really pumped to get into it. He was really pumped to be a part of Absolute Pro Wrestling, and you know what? I hope he comes back. I hope we get to see him again.
One for me was Aiden Perrin, seeing him back with APW. He'd been at one of the Fort Dodge shows that I seen him on, and seeing him and Victor Payne standing face to face, it just shows how big both of those guys are, and just to see them throwing punches back and forth, it was impressive to see. I think he could be, a dangerous mainstay with APW. Jason, with some of the newer names that came in, what did you see from some of those kind of guys that were making either their debut or were just coming back to APW, that kind of thing?
I mean, pressure, animosity, and pressure. I think buzzwords.
Right.
I saw a lot of pressure. And you could see it in the face. You could see it just in the body language of a lot of these people. My good friend Morbid Angel, he made his return to the ring first time in 5 years, and he had some highs and lows in that Winter Brawl Classic, and he talked to me about it. And then you have young guys that get in there, like an Aiden, who knows, hey, this isn't just a chance at a championship; it's a chance at an opportunity. This could really, solidify my path in Absolute Pro Wrestling, and really just in wrestling.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these young guys, Mason Grayskull, Colin Anthony, another guy who, fell short in the Fatal 4-Way, but I mean, he still drew pretty well in the Classic itself. For him, it was another moment to try and solidify your path. And Damon Dillinger, another guy who, while he's had opportunities in Absolute Pro Wrestling, he's got to get more opportunities. It's not just going to be handed to him. He's got to earn them. So those guys, when I was watching them, and even, again, you talk about your Morbids of the world, and you talk about other veterans, AJ Smooth. AJ Smooth is frustrated. He hasn't won a match since they in Absolute Pro Wrestling at our second show against Ethan Everhart. Now that's 2022. We're in 2025, and he still hasn't won. We're working on year number 4, and AJ is 0 and whatever in Absolute Pro Wrestling. So I saw a lot of pressure, and I saw a lot of hopes and dreams. Some of them getting dashed, and some of them building. Some of them feeling confident. A Mason Grayskull, he's got an opportunity in Des Moines against AJ Smooth. if he can beat AJ, that's a big deal. Just the tenure AJ's had in the business and the tenure he's had in the Midwest. While he has not found a win yet, it doesn't mean that it's for lack of effort or lack of trying.
Right.
But that could be a big moment for Grayskull if he's able to get past AJ in Des Moines. Damon Dillinger against the Death Dealer in Des Moines. Some of these guys are going to have a chance to really showcase, hey, what are you made of? Trent Hammer, Rookie of the Year, newcomer of the year, an absolute for him. I thought he had a pretty good showing. I know he's got things coming up. He's going to face Alvin Falcone at the 11th hour. That is confirmed. But again, I just hopes and dreams were dashed, and some of them were raised, and it was an exciting night to watch for some of these guys, and you felt for some of the other guys too. That
right. You mentioned hopes and dreams, but I gotta ask you this, Jason. Did your worst nightmare almost come true when it came down to Cole Cannon and the shank on the outside of the ring? Did you think Cole Cannon was going to just ruin the night for everyone and win and walk out with the Diana Cup? What were your thoughts seeing them two as the final two on the ring, the apron?
Not that I wasn't confident in Shank, but you just don't know. And you see the top, and you're like, crap. But then you see Cole go over the top, and you're like, okay, where are we going with this? And then he teased doing a Canadian destroyer on the apron, which would have destroyed Shank. Shank could have been out of action for maybe a year with that if it would have hit.
Which I got to say, Badger, your call for that was superb.
Thank you.
I mean, overall, it was a career-defining moment for both. As much as I dislike Cole Cannon, credit where credit is due. He came in halfway through the match, blasted through, had a few eliminations, got rid of James Jeffries even. That reward in Risk of Reward wasn't much of a reward for Jeffries at the end of the night. But for Cole, he was able to showcase why he is a top star in Absolute Pro Wrestling, whether you love him or whether you, much like I do, hate him. Why he is where he is right now in Absolute Pro Wrestling. So it was such a brawl between those two, and Shank was able to prevail, and I was able to sleep good at night. So
Badger,
absolutely.
Jason mentioned
sir.
James Jeffries. Jason, you and him had a little interview after the show too. Badger, what do you think? Where do you think James Jeffries goes from here with APW?
Oh, well, he won the Fatal 4-Way. He won the Risk of Reward. And like you said, Jason, it didn't exactly pan out for him as well as, I'm sure he had hoped, as we all hoped. And as far as he goes from here, that's a good question. I'd actually like to see him maybe get a shot at Alvin Falcone as well, or get a shot at Aaron Von Baron. I think it's always safe to put James Jeffries in the running for a heavyweight title shot.
I agree. One of another favorite picture from the night was during the Fatal 4-Way when him and Bryce Jordan had a moment together in the ring. I've photographed them two wrestling numerous times over the years, and just seeing them two back at, they didn't get a chance to really engage because they kept getting interfered with by Colin Anthony and AJ Smooth, but it was just really cool to see. That was kind of a nostalgic moment for me, having done this for almost 6 years now. As many times as I've shot them two together, it was kind of a cool thing. One of those moments for me that really stuck out from the show as well. I'd like to see him maybe find a young guy to take under his wing and go after the tag titles. I think James Jeffries could be, a big factor in the tag division if he finds the right guy to work with him on that. What else kind of stuck out for you? And we'll get to the winner in a minute. I'm saving that for our last part of this conversation. Jason, what else for you kind of stuck out within the Winter Brawl Classic? Any other performances or anything that really stuck out as for you as a big deal or something that was special?
I thought that Daniel Mott getting yeeted out by the Death Dealer was superb for wrong reasons. Death Dealer came in. It was a really good performance by the Death Dealer. I thought that Dealer looked really good, unsurprisingly, but he's He's had a lot of rage. He's had a lot of rage late
Yep.
in pro wrestling, dealing with Anthony Draven and with Aaron Von Buren. So, for the Death Dealer, I know it's a big deal for him to get in that ring, let out some of that anger on 29 other competitors,
Right.
as we saw at the Winter Brawl Classic. So it was fun to see him. And, Bryce, I mean, you can't talk about his performance enough. It was special
Right.
with the injury, still able to go, no matter if he ignored my handshake or not. He did well. Leo Santel had a great showing too, coming in at number 2 and lasting, until part of the final 10, I believe. He was in there for so long. I mean, kudos to him. A big night for him, kind of a breakout night, winning the tag titles with Matty Starr, and they did it. It's almost as clean as a whistle. But for Leo Santel, I think that it's just now projecting him forward and upward, and going into his hometown. That's where he wants to be. So
Nice. So Badger, obviously we know Brandon the Shank Eubanks won the Winter Brawl Classic. He got quite the reaction when he came to the aid of his partner, Bryce Jordan, who we talked about the injury and how it affected. Seeing Shank win this, for you, knowing how close you two are, what did it mean to you to see Shank get that moment and pull down the win and walk out with the Diana Cup?
It was everything. It was everything to him, and it was everything to me, and it was everything to Jason, because we all love Shank. He and I came in the door together, same day of training from day one, and he was the reason I'm sitting here in this chair talking to you guys today. I can't be more proud of him. I can't be more happy for him. It's just overwhelming feelings. And it was overwhelming that night because, like you said, Jason, it was just those two were on the apron together. They had both gone over the top rope and they were fighting for their lives, for their futures. And it was just, I almost couldn't call it because I wanted to just, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then I see him get tucked into that Canadian destroyer to come, and I'm shaking just talking about it. But as it pertains to Shank, much deserved, much loved, and that house went nuts. They went nuts for Alvin Falcone. They went nuts for Shank. They went nuts while we were putting the ring back together. I mean, the whole night was just amazing.
I always try to mention like the lore and the history of promotions and football when I do football and stuff like that. That will be one that will last forever. WWE does a great job when they build up their shows of recapping big moments. That would be one that APW would have for like highlight reels.
Yes.
For sure. On the flip side, I'll send this to you, Jason. As he's being presented the Diana Cup, the champion of APW makes his way out. I know you weren't the happiest with that. What were your kind of thoughts seeing Aaron Von Buren come out to almost take away from the moment if he could?
Things are very personal between Shank and between Aaron Von Buren. I have managed both of them at the same time. I have worked with Aaron for many, many moons. He was one of the first people I ever managed in this business. For me, it is a situation that I'm very uncomfortable being a part of.
Right.
And I don't like being in the middle of two people that I consider to be my friends. No matter how much I may not agree with what one is doing right now and what the other is doing, I am very supportive of. Overall, I wished for a better conclusion to the night, but it'll be handled.
Okay. If Aaron Von Buren holds on to the title all the way up to SuperSlam, that main event is going to be one for the ages for APW for sure. That will definitely, for me, the personal moment was after Shank won. I shared the picture on social media. My son Kendrick's my youngest of the Die Five. The boys did a pool where they randomly drew numbers for the Winter Brawl Classic, and he drew 17. And that's what Shank came out to. And him and Shank are rock buddies. They trade rocks at shows now. And after the show, while Shank was celebrating with fans, taking pictures, Kendricks presented him with 2 rocks. And he presented it almost like the most pristine way, where like he nodded his head like this and gave him the rocks. And seeing Shank's face light up and them two having that moment just was the icing on the cake for me on a personal level. So it was a really cool thing that I just throw out there. And it was just really cool to see. So great show overall. Even with the ring issues, everything still panned out perfectly. You guys got the ring fixed as quickly as you could. The fans stuck around. They didn't desert the show because of the issue. They were very understanding of that. So it was a great show all around. Jason, talk about what's coming up, man.
Well, got a lot of things coming up. All in the month of March. It's our March Madness, if you will. I think I could say.
Yeah.
Essentially, March 1st, we are in Algona. As you can see here at the bottom of the screen, we have confirmed matches so far. We have Devlin Kane. He's making I believe it's his Algona debut against the Shank. Big match for both gentlemen. Shank's got a path to Super Slam. He's got to get through the big Viking to get there. And I'm sure that Devlin Kane may have a little extra in his envelope from Aaron Von Baron if he's able to down a notch or two before we get to Super Slam, before we even get to March 29th even. James Thomas making his debut. We saw him in the Winter Brawl Classic. Was impressed with him. You talk about newcomers to APW. He's going to be in Algona, his singles debut for Absolute against Jay Wesley, who's very upset with how things went down in the Classic, in the tag match. He's looking for some redemption, a modicum of redemption against a guy like the disfigured one that is James Thomas. Let's see if he can pull it off. Canadian Bulldogs, listen. Just hear me out before we get off the train a little bit. Christophe Condon, by the way. Condon. His tag partner is Pegasus LaFawn. They claim to be the toughest tag team in all of North America. In all of Midwest.
That's something.
In all Absolute Pro Wrestling. And they've accounted for a total of 0 tag matches in Absolute Pro Wrestling. But they say they are the team to beat, and they're making their Absolute Pro Wrestling debut in Algona against Risky Business. Clint Dye has seen these guys in SCW. They've been tag champs in the Midwest. They are very impressive. They're braggadocious. They're very cocky. They're very arrogant when they need to be. But the Algona faithful, they love Cash Kennedy. Right. He's got family in the area that comes to these shows, and the fans have gotten behind them and behind him, especially. So for Kelly and for Kennedy to come in, it's going to be very special. I can't wait to see this match. Risky Business making APW debut. That's official for March the 1st. Now you go a little bit further into that card. Main event, Anthony Draven fighting for the APW championship against Aaron Von Baron. What's going to happen if Anthony Draven can somehow beat Aaron Von Baron? The main event of Super Slam 3 could be Anthony Draven against the Shank. Could you imagine that main event? All these in the making. 2 club members come to blows. What's going to happen? I don't know. But that's all confirmed for March 1st. Stay to social media to see what else is happening in Algona. March 8th, we go over to the West Des Moines area. We're at the Hall, debut show there. Can't wait to work with those folks. Nick's a great guy. Him and his wife have been so tremendous in working in this process to get this show going. We have a list of wonderful partners. You can check it out online as well that are making this show possible. And if you want to be a sponsor with APW, reach out to us. We're always welcome to work with new partners. In Des Moines and West Des Moines, you're going to see the boys. They're back in business. They're doing their thing as a tag team yet again in APW. They're going to take on Cole Cannon, runner-up in the Winter Brawl Classic, and former openweight champion, The Big Picture. That's going to happen in West Des Moines. Also going to happen, Death Dealer and Damon Dale talked about. Our boy Ricky Bronson, non-title action. Better for a championship opportunity, but he's got to earn it, and I think he will down the line. But it will be Ricky Bronson against Aaron Von Barron, one of the biggest main events in West Des Moines that we have being produced at this event, Brawl at the Hall, which is headlined.
Let's go.
It's headlined by Jackson King against Matty Starr. Can't wait to see what happens with that matchup. Stay tuned to socials for the rest of the card for the Brawl at the Hall. Main event time in Waterloo, March 29th. It's going to be the boys against the free world. Tag team titles are on the line. A lot of pressure on the free world to hold on to those suckers, and a lot of pressure for the boys to make sure that
to get them back.
Shanky Two Straps could be real. It could be a real possibility if they're able to win the tag titles in Waterloo on March 29th. But also, we announced earlier, Justin Decent, Aaron Von Barron for not the heavyweight championship, the non-title matchup. It's more for, I guess, the feeling of being better than the man you used to partner with. It's feeling the best cowboy from hell. It's basically do or die for both these old cowboys, and they're going to beat the tar out of each other where there must be a winner. And I can't wait to see what the special enforcer does to make sure that we do have a decisive winner in that matchup. That's going to be huge. Trent Hammer, opportunity against the openweight champion, Alvin Falcone. That is non-title action. It's all happening at the 11th hour pay-per-view. And we're also going to find out at the 11th hour who Alvin Falcone will defend his openweight championship against for the first time at Super Slam 3. That announced at the 11th hour. So that's all happening over the next 3 shows in March for Absolute Pro Wrestling.
That is a amazingly busy schedule for sure in March. That's very something awesome to look forward to for sure on that.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to those shows, what's sticking out to you is something that you are chomping at the bit to take place?
Everything. I am chomping at the bit for everything, because since the Winter Brawl Classic took place, what a way to start our year off, right? What a way to get things going, to get the ball rolling. I mean, it's just amazing. And now we haven't even gotten to the pinnacle of the best of our year yet. Mm-hmm. And we have so much to come. And just as Jason laid it all out, we've got newcomers. We've got old cowboys going at it at the OK Corral, and the last one standing is going to ride off into the sunset.
Right.
We've got the boys going up against tag team champions. And I mean, I can't even speak. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I am chomping at the bit for everything. So I am going to be there at every show to call all the action. It's going to be magnificent.
Yep, it's definitely going to be a great month, especially on the road to Super Slam. I know in years past we've done the road to Gold Rush, but now this really feels like Super Slam is going to be the midway point of the year, kind of, in the big event for 2025, for the first part of 2025. So it's definitely building up steam for sure, and that having that animosity, like we said a couple of times, I think is driving the competition, and it's making everyone try and step their game up to an even higher level and wanting to be seen as the guy or the team when it comes to Absolute Pro Wrestling. Jason, anything else you want to add on tonight's show? Anything else you want to spitball about or talk about?
I'm just proud of the work we've all put into producing this Absolute Pro Wrestling After the Bell, and can't wait to be on next time. Again, 3 big shows in March. You can get your tickets now, every single one. We're doing pretty well with our ticket sales as too for those shows. So get them while you can. You're not going to want to miss out on what's ahead, and big announcements pretty much going on down the line once we hit all these shows. So you're going to want to be a part of what's happening with Absolute Pro Wrestling here in the month of March.
All right, guys. Well, I think we'll wrap it up for tonight.